Hi guys, how are you doing today? Has it ever happened to you that you wanted to do something but then you chose to watch just one more reel or just one more episode of your favorite show instead? If the answer is yes, then stick around. We might have a great solution for you. I'm sure, like me, many of you also had great plans to learn something or to do that thing that you were always interested in. But did it just remain a plan and was never executed? Has it ever happened to you that you are all set to do a task and then you look at the clock and it's 7:02? So you wait for the next perfect time, 7:30, to restart your work? How many of you have secured marvelous scores in your test by preparing at the last minute, telling yourselves throughout the time that you will prepare better for the next test? But guess what happened for the next test? You're up again at 3 a.m. in the morning, skimming through your previous year's question papers because you procrastinated opening your book in advance. Forget all of this. You are probably watching this video because you're procrastinating an assignment which was due and you're waiting for a miracle for it to finish itself. A good thing that the lockdown has done for us is that it has given us ample time to explore our hobbies. Time is a funny thing. Everyone has got 24 hours in their life. But some people manage to accomplish so much and some end up only planning to accomplish the same. I won't say we are lazy, I will say that we are procrastinators, as we had the motivation to at least plan what we intended to do. Let's see what our friends have to say on the same.
AGM in hell. The devils were having an AGM conference on how to destroy the world fast but easily. They put their heads and tails together to think. At last, there was a stir in the assembly, and all the eyes turned to Anger, who stood up to speak. "Let me go and destroy the world," he said. "I will set brother against brother. I will make men get angry with each other and they will destroy themselves." But the leader of the devils was not satisfied. Lust stood up to speak next. "I will defile men's minds. I will make love disappear and men will be turned into beasts." Shaking his head disgustedly at the answer, Greed spoke up. Allow me to go, and I will insist in men's heart the most of the destructive passions. Man's uncontrollable desires will destroy him. The twins, Gluttony and Drunkenness, told how they could make men's bodies diseased and minds besotted. Envy, jealousy, and hate each told how he could destroy man. Idleness claimed he could do the job. But with none of these, the leader was satisfied. Finally, the last leader spoke up, the youngest one. This one said, "I shall talk to man persuasively in terms of all that gods want him to be. I shall tell him how his fine plans are clean and brave. I shall encourage him in the good purpose of his life." The leader was aghast. There was an uproar in hell. All of them began to fight against the youngest leader. But he continued, "However, I shall tell man there is no hurry. He can do all those things tomorrow. I shall advise him to wait until conditions become more favorable before he starts." The leaders of the devil was pleased. He said, "You, sloth, are the one who shall go to earth and destroy man."
Well, that was an interesting story, wasn't it? So, sloth. No one really thinks about it, right? In fact, sloth could be something we never even consider a sin. Many of you might be thinking, what does it mean to commit the sin of sloth? While we might have questions and doubts about the sin of sloth, the Bible and the church have time and again discussed this sin for years. So what is the sin of sloth? When we think about sloth, you probably think of physical laziness. You know, someone acting like a potato couch or a sloth bear, someone like that. While laziness is certainly an element of sloth, that is subtly found in the thing that keeps us bound up, fear. But there's more to this sin than just laziness. Brian Hedges defines the sin of sloth with 4 different characteristics: carelessness, unwillingness to act, half-hearted effort, and becoming easily encouraged by any possible difficulty. Does this give you a better idea now?
The first characteristic, am I careless? Proverbs chapter 24 verses 33 to 34 says, "A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed warrior." All of us need rest, but has our rest turned into negligence? Have we begun to not care and not give our best effort in various circumstances of life? When we become careless, we are like the man in Proverbs 24. Now think through your life. Have you become careless in your relationship with God, your relationship with your parents and your loved ones, your job, college work? Slothfulness steals our excitement and joy of the purpose that God has for us. The second characteristic, am I unwilling to act? Have I begun to procrastinate in my tasks? Proverbs chapter 20 verse 4 says, "The lazy person does not plow in season. Harvest comes and there is nothing to be found." If we are unwilling to act, then we cannot expect to complete the tasks we must do. Sometimes tasks are often so overwhelming that we keep putting things off until the last minute, and then it becomes practically impossible to finish what we need to within the stipulated time. Dear friend, are you procrastinating on your projects? Are you putting off that conversation you need to have with your parents and loved ones? The unwillingness to act leads to the sin of sloth.
The third characteristics, do I do everything with a half-hearted effort? In our day-to-day lives, sometimes we have so much to do that we do not excel in everything. Our priorities get out of hand and we spend more of our time and energy on our job we should be doing with our relationship with God and our families. Now, the problem with half-hearted effort is not because we are lazy, but because we lack the skill of prioritizing our responsibilities. Perhaps our half-hearted effort comes from our inability to say no. Now, that's the problem. The fourth characteristics, am I discouraged in the face of every difficulty? Life is full of difficulties. No one, not even God, ever promised that our lives would be easy. Discouragement in the face of difficult situation is a reality we all need to face. However, potential difficulties cannot paralyze us from action. Sometimes the difficult situation in our past caused us to fear the unknown and thereby inhibit us from future action. We must realize that difficulties are a part of our lives and that we can work through these difficult circumstances.
So basically, sloth is a sin that believes in nothing, cares for nothing, seeks to know nothing, interferes with nothing, enjoys nothing, hates nothing, finds purpose in nothing, lives for nothing, and remains alive because there is nothing for which it will die. The word sloth is also a translation of the Latin term acedia, which means without care. This evil of acedia finds expression in a lack of any feeling for the world, for the people in it, or for the self. Acedia, in Chaucer's view, is the enemy of every source and motive for work. We need to constantly remind ourselves that in whatever we do it for the glory of God. We must remember that our lives are not about us, they are about God. How we live and our lives matter. We do not live for ourselves, but rather for God. When you begin to battle sloth, keep in mind that everything you do is for the greater glory of God.
The sloth, one of the 7 deadly sins, refuse to exert the will towards the good even when it is present. It is the right time for us to realize the theological background of sloth, which can help us understand this sin in a detailed way. For this, I hereby refer the writing of St. Thomas Aquinas and his book of Summa Theologica. Referring to Damascene, St. Thomas Aquinas calls sloth as an oppressive sorrow, which to wit so weighs upon one person's mind that he or she wants to do nothing. Further, he calls sloth as a sluggishness of the mind which neglects to begin good. Therefore, this sorrow is evil, sometimes in itself, sometimes in its effect. In simple way, we can define sloth as laziness, particularly when it concerns prayer and spiritual life. Sloth is always wanting to rest and relax with no desire or intention of making a sacrifice or doing something for others. It is an aversion to work, physical, mental, and spiritual.
William Willimon states, sloth is a sin that enables us to walk by the poor person with outstretched hand and no longer feel a turning of conscience, no longer even see the empty hand reaching out to us in need, unable to consider the possibility that the man asking us for a handout is an invitation to get close to God. In the parable of Good Samaritan, the priest and the Levite both commit the sin of sloth. They see a Jewish man lying beaten and half dead, but they chose to pass on the other side. It wasn't their laziness or helplessness. They just did not care enough about putting themselves in a situation that did not benefit them. In their defense, they had more pressing business to attend rather than helping an injured Jew. Next, a Samaritan comes along the way and he sees the wounded man and quickly realizes he is a Jew. Now the Jews knew to look down upon the Samaritans and had a great partition wall between them. They would not even allow the people of Samaria into their temples. But this Good Samaritan sees the wounded man in the ditch and sets aside all these differences. All he feels is compassion towards him and thus brings his journey to a halt to take care of the man. Another example of sloth in the Holy Bible is the parable of a rich man and Lazarus, where the rich man lived a very luxurious life, and then there is Lazarus lying at his gate, covered with sores, longing to eat the leftovers that fell off the rich man's table. Though he never harassed or hurt Lazarus, he also did nothing to improve his pitiable condition. He simply did not care enough to help Lazarus, as he was too immersed in the richness of his worldly life. Had he lived his life with humility, trying to understand the pain of others, and above all, trying to lead a life that was pleasing in the eyes of God, the rich man would have surely made efforts to overcome his indifference or to precisely point out the sin of sloth.
Now that we know what sloth really is and how serious this problem is, let's look at how to tackle it. In this modern era, where sleeping habits are disarrayed to the point where we fail to follow the regular lifestyle, this new habit of sleepless nights have now become the new normal. It is needless to say how much this can affect our mental, physical and emotional balance. Aim to get the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night to feel refreshed and ready to tackle the day ahead with vigor. Discipline is the key. Having a timetable for the life will keep us more active and concentrated. Avoid procrastination and finish responsibilities on time. If we are disciplined, the sin of sloth will automatically be wiped off from our lives. Hence, we must fix a time to get up, time to work, time to eat, time to exercise, time to rest, time for prayer, time for entertainment, and time to sleep. Among the numerous other methods to combat sloth, exercise is a practical way to get rid of laziness. Just a few minutes of exercise can increase our energy levels, improve mood, and reduce anxiety, stress, and depression, all which can make us feel drained and unmotivated. Try a short walk or bike ride to combat that lazy feeling. We all should have an aim in our life, and plan to achieve that aim will make it easier for us to get there. Be realistic about how much time, effort, and other factors are needed to meet the goal and create an action plan accordingly. Having a plan will provide direction and confidence that can help even if we hit a hurdle along the way. We need to realize that every action we do glorifies God. And hence, this purpose needs to be a constant reminder in our life when we direct every action of ours as a prayer and perceive the goodwill that lies beyond the current hardships and struggles. That is when we will be able to truly unlock our potential to diligence. Let us be active and vigilant as good servants of Christ. God bless you all. Thank you.